Next speaker I would like to announce is Niclas Hagström from Sweden. And he is, interestingly enough, he's a nuclear, what do you call that? Nuclear... electrician. Yeah, but a nuclear aanlage, how do you call that? A nuclear power. He has experience from nuclear power plants. Now this is very interesting. So we're going to hear from somebody who knows a lot about and has worked in nuclear power plants. Is an electrician, and he will give us another view of this whole subject of nuclear energy, and I will not say anything more. Over to him. Give Niclas Hagström an applause.
Thank you. So this is quite close prepared. First of all, I want to talk to you about a sad fact. When people visit the wonders of the world, they always go, how on earth did we build this? How did we build the Chinese wall, the pyramids? And the answer is sadly, slaves. We built it by slaves. Slaves put their bodies into these things, these creations. And still today we use slaves. Not so obvious, but we still do it. And everyone in this room actually use slaves, but in another form, energy slaves. There's a calculation saying the average household use about 100 to 130 energy slaves, people replaced by machines. And you might think that's quite a high number, 100 people. How on earth? Well, if you look at it this way, instead of taking your car, using carbon slaves, oil, you took a horse. But a horse, you don't just turn the key on the horse and you go. You have to feed the horse, you have to shelter, and all these things. You have to grow food, depending on where you are. It takes a lot of time, a lot of power. And we're bound by energy, and we have to use energy. And there's energy in everything. So what I want to present to you today is what can we do, how we can do it, and why. And I'm going to propose a technique we have used in the 60s. It's already here. It's proven to work. And with it, you can get energy in forms of electricity. You can get clean water. You can get fuel. So here we can see a picture of a nuclear power plant using a heat exchanger. So we have steam going out, and basically what we're doing is boiling water. It's very simple, but it's a very complex kind of setup. And you drive the high-pressure steam through a turbine, and the head chief of the reactor 2 I was working on, he was so proud of his power plant. He actually did all the safety instructions for everyone working there. So everyone has met him, the highest boss. He's doing all the safety. And he was proudly saying, this turbine is equivalent to 110 jumbo jets standing, pushing full throttle. That's a tremendous amount of power. And you have a generator, and you condensate the water, and the steam becomes liquid, and it goes back in. And if you take the next slide, this is the normal, back like 3 times. One more. This is a boiling water reactor, which is what you have here in Germany. And in this, you have no heat exchange, and the water going out is active. The steam and everything is radioactive. You can turn the next slide. What you have here is yellow cake, uranium. And at this stage, it's not really dangerous. You see, this person is just using rubber gloves. Go next stage. So we have a lot of fuel, fuel we have to do something with. We have a tremendous amount of nuclear fuel that we have to bury for tens of thousands of years, right? And why do we have it? Well, the big reason is when we only use a few percent of the fuel, we have to take it out. Here you see a picture of a man called Kirk Sørensen. He is a big pusher for the technology I'm going to present to you. So why do we have to get the fuel out? Well, this is a solid nuclear fuel, and the radiation is damaging the fuel itself. So the cladding, which is surrounding it, they turn these yellow cake into small pellets, black small pellets, and they get destroyed. You have to take them out, or you will have a problem. So this man, Kirk Sørensen, is working with a company called Recreated Flibe Energy. And the technology we're going to talk about is what we call a lifter, or he's calling it a lifter. Liquid fluoride thorium reactor. And this man you saw was Alvin Weinberg, and he's actually the creator from all technologies in nuclear. He created the power plants we have today, and he created the one that the governments and nobody's using today. He actually thought that the nuclear powers we have today is not good enough. They're not safe. And of course, when he said that, he got kicked off. He got laid off. Because the statement was, if you don't think these reactors are safe, maybe you don't belong in this kind of work. And this was the first reactor. He contacted the military and got a reactor experiment for an airplane. Now, he knew that was a bad idea. You're not going to put a reactor with fissile material in an airplane. But it allowed him to do what he wanted to do next. He wanted to build a reactor for electricity. And this man, Alvin Weinberg, was part of the Manhattan Project. And he thought, well, this technology, we should be able to do something good out of this. So the big difference between the reactors you saw and this is that everything here you see is depending on passive safeties. A reactor, a normal reactor, everything is active. If something goes wrong, you have to add small adjustments, and everything is always active system. And here, for instance, if the pumps stops, you have Fukushima Daiichi. The pumps stops. And that's the generation 1 reactor, and they should be all decommissioned because they're not safe. Not as safe as you can have them. Just a few miles apart from Daiichi, you have a second generation nuclear reactor, nothing happened. Same thing happened, the reactors, but big difference. So, why is this safe? Well, instead of using water, you have molten salt. You have a higher temperature, which means you don't have to have a containment vessel. Water needs a lot of. It has a low boiling point. Imagine you boil a kettle, and you put the lid on, and you really put it tight, and you make it airtight. That thing is going to explode because of the pressure. If you have a high temperature, you don't need pressure. And if you look, this system, in case of emergency, you have a freeze plug. What is it called? What is it? Where is it? Can you see it? 13? Freeze valve, yeah. So, if the pump stops, everything is going to stop. There's a kind of a blower blowing cold air on frozen salt, which means it's going to dissolve. The heat is going to make it flow straight into the system, and the reaction stops. So you can do the next. So, salt, molten salt, has a boiling point of 600 degrees instead of 100, as in water. So it's an inherently stable system, which means what they noticed with this reactor during the 60s, they built a reactor that could use plutonium, uranium, and thorium. So this reactor has been built in Oak Ridge in the United States. They operated it for 20,000 hours, and it had very interesting abilities. The workers, the scientists, they've had families and they were lazy, didn't want to work on the weekends, so they just shut it off before going home on Friday. Can you do that with a nuclear power plant here? No. Millions and millions of costs just to start a nuclear reactor. They just turned a switch. Big difference. So here's the diagram of how it's pretty much working. Fuel salt, heat exchanger, more salt, and you get hot gas. And a byproduct can be used. The heat can be used to desalinate the ocean, meaning you get fresh water. A byproduct. You go next. This is your annual consumption of thorium. This is all you need for an entire year, one person. This technology is scalable, and Kirk Sørensen from Flybe is trying to propose to do small units. He's targeting the US Army to get some kind of funding and get this going. So imagine that small speck can give you power. And what's more interesting is the current nuclear material we have to get rid of somehow can be used in here, and you can get rid of it. Instead of 10,000 years, you can get rid of it and have the storage time to 100 years. So why aren't we using this technology? Well, first off, at the time when he proposed that this is not safe, they were already building 10 to 20 reactors. They already had made the atomic bomb. They had the uranium cycle complete. They knew how to handle this material. And thorium was like brand new. We don't know what it is. We don't want to use it. Also, it gives off gamma rays, alpha rays, I think it was. And it's very easily detectable. Here's thorium on the moon. There's so much thorium, and the planet Earth looks just the same. There's so much thorium, we don't know what to do with it. Every rare earth mine in the United States or all around the world has thorium as a byproduct. It's something they have to get rid of. A friend of his has a mine, and he asked him, how much thorium do you pull up from your rare earth mine that you have to dig down and take care of? About 5,000 ton. Okay, that's not special, it's just a small mine. This is another picture of Mars. And you need about 6,600 ton of thorium to power the planet for 1 year. And his mine is pulling up 5,000 tons, a small mine, and there's plenty of mines like this. And this is the equivalent of other types of fuel. So, return over energy invested. As you can see, thorium as the last one is unbeatable. So apart from getting thorium, a lot of things we use today in modern science and medical equipment need isotopes. If we got rid of all the nuclear power plants today, we would have a shortage of ways to discover disease in such things, and of course radiation treatment, but that's another level. We can probably get rid of that using other technologies. So here you saw a radiothermal reactor, or generator, and this is what NASA is using in their equipment going to Mars, because solar is a very bad choice for space exploration. You get dust on it, and it just doesn't work. And I guess you all have heard of Curiosity on Mars. It's using this technology, but it's not that effective. It's actually very low level, low power. It's using 100 watt, the entire thing. So 2 incandescent light bulbs is running the Mars rover Curiosity. So if you want to display space exploration, and I'm a person interested in space, I love space. As you can see, space missions using solar panel is just not possible. As you can see, the further away we get, the more panels you require for the same kind of energy. So at Pluto, you need 1,563 panels instead of 1 to power whatever craft you have. It's just not possible. So how it works is you use thorium, and this is the circle which occur with it naturally, and it's breeding more fuel. And this has been proven to work in shipping port in the United States, another type of reactor. When they finished, they had more uranium than when they started. So it's proven to work, and what we can do with that is other things. So 1,000 kilograms of thorium gives you 90% fission and 9,000 gigawatt E. It's from YouTube. It doesn't really tell you much, but you get all these byproducts. And plutonium in the right 238 is what NASA uses. It's very expensive, and it's not really abundant. You also get medical supplies in terms of things you need for radiation treatment, etc., etc. So here we have another thing we can use. This is a naval research laboratory in Key West, and they have focused on capturing carbon, acidic carbon in the ocean, turning it into fuel. That's pretty interesting, because capturing carbon from ocean water is equal to capturing carbon from the air. As you know, the ocean captures the most carbon of everything. That's why it's so acidic. That's why the coral reef in Australia is bleached. So it's not really an effective thing. You see that if you look at the figures, a single ECEM process, it's the 7,200 gallons of water, and if you have 3 of them, you make 1 gallon of fuel per day. That's not much. But it's a brand new technology. It's something that they're working on, and large scale, of course, nobody knows what can happen. We could possibly use this, capture the carbon we put out, put it back into our fuel, and close the circle. So imagine for a while if you would replace all the things we use today that produces carbon dioxide in terms of coal, gas, replace it with nuclear power that is inherently safe. When you shut down everything and make tests where a normal reactor would go critical and you would have a gas explosion, and basically you would have Chernobyl, you would have nothing happens. Matter of fact, 2 weeks before Chernobyl, another reactor, I think it was the shipping port reactor, which was a similar design, they did the test of what happened. They shut down the pumps, and everything just normalized and became harmonized. It's like nothing happened. And then 2 weeks later, Chernobyl happened. And instead of the media going, hey, wait, did you know we had a reactor in the United States and we just did this test that happened in Chernobyl and everything was fine? Maybe we should just get rid of those reactors that are not safe and go towards this. Didn't happen. So why are they safe? When the salt gets hotter and the reaction just continues, it expands. And with that expansion, there's less chance of the neutrons hitting and making the chain reaction continue. So what happens is the temperature rises, and then it normalizes. No control of it, and it just a sinus curve. They actually had that happening in Oak Ridge, where a control rod got stuck, and the reactor just kept going. And they observed the temperatures, and the same thing happened. They didn't even write an incident report. Nothing happened. So what fuel can you make? Well, petroleum derivative JP5 is jet fuel. And there is no real technology that soon is going to replace jets. And what they've made and discovered is that below the camelina derived is what they created, and it burns better, less toxic, less harmful particles. And you can also replace all the diesel, so you can close the entire circle. You can keep the current car park, remove all other forms of carbon pollutants, and kind of keep going the way we're doing, but the world will not suffer. I mean, look at China. They put out like a power plant, a coal power plant, every 2 weeks for years. Of course, there's smog. So this technology has been hidden away since the 60s. Nothing has happened until recent years. China, India are building these reactors today. They have thousands of people working on this, and it's very promising. Here are other companies that are investing and researching into this field. I'm very excited to see what can happen. Imagine desalinating oceans. You can have unlimited energy, because this is so common that if you go outside and just take a scoop of sand, it probably contains thorium. It's so abundant. They say we will never run out. Some say that our star will turn into a red giant before we run out of energy in forms of thorium. Now that's a bold statement. Let's say we have thorium for 1,000 years. Imagine what will happen in 1,000 years of our technology. What would happen if we could remove all carbon in forms of gas, fossil fuels, until then? Thank you. Any questions?
Hello.
Hello.
You said it's so expensive to shut down one of those reactors. What does it make so expensive? I mean, you say it's a stupid switch to turn. So,
well, this reactor is completely different. So I can't go into details how this reactor works in terms of turning it on. Mm-hmm. But I guess they would have to keep the salt heated, mm-hmm. because it solidifies at 600 degrees. It's going to be tremendously hard to get it moving again. But a normal reactor is much more delicate. It's so many small systems. I mean, the reactor I was working on got shut down by a plastic piece. Okay. A plastic piece clogged a drain, and there is condensation. And the water level rose from condensation and triggering a switch saying this area is flooded. Shuts down. Mm-hmm. And when the reactor shuts down, it's like a cannonball. You can hear it from so far away. It's just imagining when you turn the car key, there's a lot of small things happening, right? Mm-hmm. Pumps are starting, ignitions, everything is you have to turn the engine. Imagine the same with a nuclear power plant, but much more intricate. There's so many pumps have to be started, so much pressure, etc., etc. And then you have to connect towards the power grid, and you have to kind of time that, because if you don't, everything's just gonna kind of phase out, and yeah, it's not gonna be a good thing.
Okay, wait, I have one. So the different to the new one is just the salt, right? Instead of water, they use salt.
You have, for these reactors, you have liquid fuel instead of solid fuel, which is much better. What was the question again? You have salt.
What's the difference? It's from the reactor what we have now and what your suggestion
Actually, you could bring up
is.
the PDF with the 10. There's a lot of things. The heat makes a difference.
Okay.
Top 10. It's down. I think it's this one. I don't see it. No, left one. Yeah, this one. Basically, everything with a nuclear power plant today, you have to stop the process to do anything. To refuel it, you have to stop it. To do anything, you have to pretty much stop it. This new power plant kind of type, you can refuel it while it's running. You can extract isotopes you need for medical equipment. You never need to shut it down. And you can make it small, you can make it big. If we have time, you can start the video as well. Do we have time? Nope. Okay. Second question or third question?
I cannot read it anymore. So you said there was Chernobyl that exploded or whatever, and there was one before. So it was already we already have the two different kinds of those reactors.
There's been liquid metal,
yeah,
molten salt, and there are breeder reactors in the world, but not like this. Just after Chernobyl, the United States decided that, just play it for the small amount of time. They decided to shut everything down, all the experiments.
So, okay. Thank you.
By a government agency was the scan.
Niclas, I was wondering, you remember the gentleman you had the nice portrait of? When was it that he finished his design for this liquid salt thorium?
Kirk or Alvin?
Oh.
The old man? The black and white?
My question goes to when was basically the design finished for a safer reactor? And now I'm combining thorium with plutonium. I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake here. I just wonder about the timeline, because I read that in the 1960s we already had 20,000 of experience hours on such a safer reactor. I'm not sure if it was a thorium reactor or...
60s, yes.
So when was the idea done? What do you think?
When he conceived the idea, I don't know, but the reactor, they built it in 6 months in Oak Ridge.
So you'd say it was pretty much a 60s
In the 60s,
thing.
mid-60s, and it
just
operated.
For our political thing that in the 60s probably the lobby faction was big enough to...
Yeah, another big thing was it's easily discoverable. So you can see the images from a satellite. They couldn't make nuclear weapons from it because it's hard to work with, and the enemy could just use a satellite image and see this bright white. Oh, there are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 nuclear rockets hidden here. They know where the base is. So they couldn't use it for nuclear weapons. You can, but it's not worth it. Not worth the danger. Thorium, yeah, it's not worth using thorium for nuclear weapons. So the arms race was, yeah. Okay, thank you.